Hey everybody, welcome back to Buddy's Big Screen. Today's video is the first video on the channel that isn't scripted, and there's an issue that's been floating around Twitter lately that I really wanted to address and talk about, and I think it deserves its own video. So if you're new here, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. It means a lot to me every single time I see something new on the channel. There's a bunch of new videos that are coming. There's 2 videos on the backlog now. If you haven't seen them, I recommend you go check them out. They're pretty cool. One has to do with Terrifier, one has to do with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But today's video is going to be about leaks, why I think they're ruining movies, and specifically we're going to be talking about Deadpool 3. Before we get into Deadpool 3 specifically, I want to roll things back a few years and talk about Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. At the end of Avengers Infinity War, the Avengers lose. Thanos wins. It's the biggest cliffhanger that mainstream audiences are going to see out of a comic book movie for a very long time, right? So obviously the discourse and discussion online is what happens next. We have a whole year until Avengers 4. What's going to happen? And then they started shooting things outside, and people started to get photos of the time travel wristwatches things from Avengers Endgame. But back then, it was more of an excitement thing to get excited for Avengers 4 and theorize what things kind of meant out of the context with the photos we saw. That's kind of where most of this stuff started to become mainstream, but it really peaked in 2021 with Spider-Man No Way Home. With Spider-Man No Way Home, there was a long stretch of nothing on the internet, just absolute silence. We didn't even know the title for a very long time, and they made a whole marketing scheme out of the titles, which I think completely flopped. That was a terrible marketing decision. But basically, their biggest hurdle in the marketing was the whole production of the film was kind of weighing on Toby and Andrew coming in, and with COVID and the pandemic happening, it was kind of wishy-washy whether things were actually going to line up, so the whole thing had to change. And for a long time, we didn't hear anything about what was happening in the movie. So people went online, and they went to Reddit and Twitter and found all these plot leaks. A lot of them had a bunch of inaccuracies, but some of them had really descriptive details that ruined the movie months in advance. We'd see low quality images of the villains coming back and returning. There was even an 8K video of Andrew Garfield on set that I think Sony released, and I will die on that hill. I think Sony released that because they wanted to boost the momentum a little bit. But over the course of waiting that year until December of 2021, there were a plethora of photos, videos, interviews, random DoorDash events with Andrew Garfield. Some dude found Tobey Maguire in a random park and asked him about it. There was the whole werewolf conversation with Andrew Garfield, promising he wasn't in the movie and trying not to set up expectations. And right before the movie was released to everybody, you got the low quality video cameras. Somehow in 2021, you had low quality potato videos. I don't know how that's possible, but you saw the really crappy CGI of Andrew Garfield coming in, Tobey Maguire coming in, and the movie's ruined right before you go and see the film. And for me, that's when I started to start criticizing the idea of leaks. Now, in the case of Spider-Man No Way Home, it kind of worked out in their favor. That movie made so much money, it's ridiculous. So it worked, I get it. It worked for the movie's success and profit, and fans love it, and I love that movie too. But that's where the discourse, at least in my mind and my circle, started to happen. And it got even worse with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness that promised so many different cameos and things. And when my channel was in a different state, I also did a breakdown talking about, is that Deadpool in the poster or whatever? But then again, there's still the discourse online, the conversation about cameos and everything, but a majority of it wasn't that bad. But now I'm starting to get absolutely frustrated and irritated with leaks in general. While it's really cool to see set photos that get you excited for a project, it's really, really disheartening to go on social media every day and have a giant risk of the first thing you see be a major spoiler from a movie you're excited about that maybe you didn't want to see. And not everybody should go on there and immediately go on Twitter and be blocking every single possible title or character or movie that they ever want to see so that they don't see the leaks. That's just not probable. That's not fair. And the same thing goes for YouTube. If your YouTube is tailored to see this type of content, you're going to see in your recommended random low poly, low quality videos and photos of leaks you didn't want to see in the first place. It's really, really frustrating how these algorithms work, and you have to go so beyond out of your way or not be on social media at all to avoid spoilers. Normally, or at least years ago, it was just you would close your eyes at a trailer or something in a movie theater if you didn't want to know anything about a movie, because the only thing you had was the posters and the trailers. But now you have to avoid everything, everywhere online, all the time, because there's always going to be someone with a telephoto lens making it happen so that you can see movies being ruined in real time, right? Now, one thing I want to transition into, right, is that we see these leaks because filming happens at real locations, right? That's where we get to see the spotters and the scoopers kind of from really far away get those photos because the filming's happening in a real spot. A huge criticism that not only I've had, but most of the internet, is that Marvel movies don't look good anymore, and a bunch of superhero movies in general just don't look good. The CGI looks crappy, and everybody wants to attack the VFX artists, but it's not their fault. The VFX artists are actually really overworked and abused in the industry right now, and it's not really something I want to do. You know, I don't want to criticize these people for maybe not so good visual effects, because do you know how much of the process now is filming in a digital location with the volume or green screens now? Like, that's why these studios are not filming in real locations, is to avoid these leaks and these spoilers that they don't want. So they film them inside of a green screen or blue screen box, and the visual effects artists have to be worked even harder. And it's just so frustrating to see the final result look the way it is. Specifically, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I think that film is a disgrace to the superhero films. I think it's a disgrace to the visual effects artists that have worked on it. And it's just embarrassing because every single shot is green screen or blue screen for 90% of that movie. A lot of those criticisms can come from the fact they don't shoot on real locations anymore. And when they do, everything gets leaked. So now I think it's time we can finally talk about Deadpool 3, because Ryan Reynolds himself has now released a statement regarding the spoilers that have leaked about the movie. I will not be talking about the leaks or the spoilers of Deadpool 3. There was one very, very recent that doesn't show a character, but shows an aspect of the film that looks really, really cool, and you guys are gonna love it when you see it, and so am I, that I did not want to see. It was the first one where I went, you have got to be kidding me. I don't need to see every single aspect of a movie before I go see it. That's what I'm going to see the movie for in the first place. I don't need to know every detail, every cameo, every aspect of the movie before I go in. I like surprises. I want it to be an overall good experience. And even though I saw these images, they don't ruin what I'm going to see next year with Deadpool 3. It still makes me upset that we have so much discourse and things online that lead us to something like this. So I find it really interesting that Ryan Reynolds released a statement, and I thought I would go ahead and read it for us. So surprises are a part of the magic of theatrical movies. It's important for us to shoot the new Deadpool film in real, natural environments using practical effects as opposed to making the movie indoors and digitally. Telephoto lenses continue to spoil surprises and create a difficult situation for everyone. Here's hoping some of the websites and social channels hold back showing images before they're ready. The film is built for audience joy, and our highest hope is to preserve as much of that magic as possible for the finished film and the big screen. Part of the reason people post spoilers is because they're excited. I realize these aren't real world issues, and it's firmly in the good problems bucket. I love making this movie. I really enjoy this statement from Ryan Reynolds because I think it takes a lot of initiative to actually address stuff like this. Obviously, with the whole Avengers Infinity War and Endgame thing, there was really no discussion, no official talk about the leaks or anything, because those were just a couple photos. Overall, the Spider-Man No Way Home discourse or criticisms you could have really wasn't talked about because the movie was such a success with fans, critics, and the box office. Everything kind of worked out perfectly for that movie. It's only when we get to Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness and now moving on to Deadpool 3, we're really starting to see the negative sides of this kind of thing, and this trend kind of needs to stop. I know Ryan Reynolds has a lot of influence, and I really hope a lot of these leakers and scoopers kind of stop doing this, because he's straight up asking you, like, guys, stop ruining your own experience. And I couldn't help but just agree with that. So I wanted to come on here. I didn't really plan on making a video this week, so that's why there is no script to this. I really just wanted to rant because I think we're doing ourselves a disservice by ruining these movies, by looking into these leaks and constantly being berated with content that we don't need to see. We don't need to see every detail. So I hope moving forward, we can find more confidence with these studios to film in real locations, because that will fix our problem with the CGI or the overuse of CGI, and it will hopefully take the visual effects artists a little weight off their shoulders, because everything is really relying on them. And I really hope we get more unionized stuff and more information about visual effects artists getting more money, getting paid better hours, and stop the abuse, and especially coming from Marvel. If you haven't looked into that, I highly recommend you look into that a little bit more. That's not what I'm going to be doing here, but maybe I'll try to link some articles in the comments if you're not familiar with the topic. but I think that will solve a huge issue of the over-reliance on CGI. It'll make the films look better. We're going to have better cinematography. Things are going to be better for our viewing experience. So why would you want to ruin or taint that experience by looking at a long telephoto lens image of a character who you would have been really excited to see in the movie in the first place, but now you know the surprise a year in advance? That's kind of like planning your own surprise party and then somehow still acting surprised at the surprise party. You kind of did a disservice to your own birthday. I hope that's an okay analogy. But overall, I wanted to talk about leaks in general and why over the years I've really gained a disdain for it. And that latest Deadpool 3 leak really just kind of did it for me. It's the nail in the coffin. I'm really going to start avoiding all this stuff. Comic book and superhero media is obviously going to still be on the channel, but I don't plan on making more videos like this in the future. I hope I don't have to, because I think we're just doing ourselves a disservice by leaking everything. I think it's better to have more surprises. I can't wait to talk about Deadpool 3 when it happens. If a trailer releases soon, I'll probably try to cover it. But until then, I don't want to see anything unofficial. I don't want to see it anymore. If Marvel Studios releases a trailer or an image actually publicly, like the Wolverine costume, that's cool. But I'm sick of seeing low quality images of something I'm going to see in a few months from now. So let me know your thoughts about Deadpool 3 without spoiling things for other people in the comments. Let me know your thoughts about leaks in general, superhero media in general. Let me know everything. Okay? Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.